but we're okay.
Just think we're in a tropical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is cool for a tropical.
Oh, I'll tell you, what it brought back some memories when we were on one-year retreat in our little cabins. We did not have AC in our at SCOL. And it got 96 outside, and you're in that little cabin with those metal roofs. Oh, it was fun. But we did a lot of self-cooling, which was fine. You just took your T-shirt at break, put it in cold water, put it on soaking wet, and went back in your cabin. And within an hour or so, it was dry. But you were cool that whole time. That's a good thing to do even in your house if your house is really hot. I just get a T-shirt and dip it in cool water and put it on. And then, huh? Yeah, you can just... Or don't use your dryer anymore. The other day I just pulled my pants out of the washer and put them on and went out and drive. I had to drive somewhere, and it was so great. I felt very cool the whole time. I mean, they weren't dripping wet, because it spins. And then, it was perfect. I thought, I'm going to do this. Next time I'll do this for evening session. I'll arrive with wet pants and wet shirt. I encourage it. Okay, well, that's not our topic. Or maybe it is. That's the 8 worldly concern of my pain, my pleasure. It's good to identify it. All about me and my comfort. I don't care about you. But what else? What's going on with practice? What practice questions do you have? Or not practicing questions? Wishing I was practicing questions.
We could go deeper into the discussion of discomfort as a distraction and a vehicle or a means, or maybe even an object for practice, for meditation. There's all kinds. There's heat.
Does it happen for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you, I think it happens for all of us. What do you do already that works?
I try to ignore it, which is the wrong thing.
Why is ignoring the wrong thing?
No, I try to get it so it becomes part of the background. So whatever it is, if it's noise, which is my biggest problem, as I talked about another time,
yeah.
Or if it's heat, or what else? The physical pain, I think I'm just dealing with. That's not as much of a problem anymore.
Well,
sitting.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have physical pain?
It's
Not
there,
so
but I just overcome it. It's just like it's not.
It doesn't distract you.
Not too much.
Okay.
I've learned to let the legs go to sleep. They'll wake up again, no problem. Things like that. So.
Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah.
But more for me, it's more noise,
Yeah.
temperature. What else?
Yeah.
Those are the main things. Insects if I'm outside camping.
Yeah.
Meditating with mosquitoes, that's a fun one.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. Letting them bite you on purpose.
Feed them.
On purpose.
Help them, benefit others.
Have you ever done that?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
And then until they're full, and then they go away. And then
Yeah.
they take away the histamine at the end.
Yeah.
So it doesn't itch anymore.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Let's start with that. I'll tell a couple stories just because I want to tell stories. Then we'll come back to more of there. So Lama Zopa's attendant He's a famous Lama in the Gelug tradition, said that one time he came into Lama Zopa's room in Asia somewhere, and it was hot, and there were a lot of mosquitoes, and Lama Zopa had his shirt off, and his back was covered with mosquitoes, and he was singing mantra to them while they took his blood. Because he was, I'm not saying I could do this, but it's a it's a story about really thinking all beings are my mothers and have been. And these mother mosquitoes want my blood to be able to go make their children. So why wouldn't I give it? So I heard that story while I was at the Abbey, and a mosquito showed up and later, and I thought, I was doing the wave it away thing, and then I thought, well, I can just try this one mosquito. And, it took a while for it to land, which was interesting. And then, as you said, the interesting thing, if you let it do this and fill up with blood, I could see it filling up, turning red, and then it flew away, and it did not itch. I was absolutely stunned. So you're saying it pulls the anticoagulant out. So letting them bite you benefits you. So funny thing, kind of a symbiosis. But I would just recommend it as a practice, in just not to the degree of Lama Zopa, but just trying out this thing about and I speak myself, I feel like sometimes I just can't bear discomfort. I just can't bear it, And that causes us to constantly adjust, adjust this, adjust that. Can this change? Can that change? And there's something about sometimes seeing, no, this can't change. Now, deal with it. And really, that's everything around us that we're always trying to change and rarely accepting it. And, our culture in particular, you can't even go ahead and get old and be happy about it. It's supposed to be pretty awful. You're supposed to, in fact, stop it somehow. Like, get facelifts and get lip lifts and take this drug and take that drug and at least pretend you're young. And the more I face being 70, and hopefully of some years more, but you never know, the more if I can be at ease, accept the mosquito, accept the noise, don't oppose, don't investigate even, just, this is what it is. One of the bumper sticker sayings is, this is what it is. This heat, this is what this is. That's one way in. Another way in, Lama Tara gave us in the I think it might have been her first talk in the one-year retreat. She said a lot of the time, and she knew, she'd done 2-3-year retreats. She said a lot of the time, your mind is going to go unhappy about the conditions. It's too hot, it's too cold. One time in the winter, the power went out, and it was during one of our in the cabin, don't come out of the cabin times. And of course, you get no notice, like, how long will this occur? I mean, it's not like you can go on the internet or call up the staff. And I mean, the way we communicated with the staff, you wrote a handwritten note, put it under the door. The next mealtime, they picked it up. They talked to Lama Michael. They brought back a note. They put it under the door the next mealtime. So, you know, it was a patience practice. But anyway, so we're in our cabins. Power is out, and I had a little thermometer in there. And it went down to, 65, and then it went down to 60, and I had all my blankets on and all my hat and gloves and everything on, doing meditation, and then it went down to 57, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And it was like, well, what are you going to do? You could run out of the cabin and put notes out or something, but maybe, how are you this minute? Oh, I'm warm enough, I'm warm enough. I can get up and run around to the cabin. I can do some things. But then the power came back on, and we were comparing notes later at the next talk time, which was around lunchtime, if you wanted. And it was really interesting what we all went through, how that turned out to be a great practice, and how many of us remembered to do Tonglen. Like, there are people in the world, they live like this, What's that? Yeah. And so, 57 was cooler. but there are most people in the world don't live with all these luxuries. And in a certain way, I noticed, having left the Abbey and left the one-year retreat, how much more I'm like grumpy about. It's not pleasant. Because, when you're in those situations, you just voluntarily take it on, like, I'm going to do this practice for others. Some unpleasantness will arise. I accept it, and I will work with it. We're kind of spoiled. Maybe I'm the only spoiled one, but no? Okay. Yeah, we're kind of spoiled. You probably heard this from your friends, but first world concerns. What color should my curtains be? And I spend a week picking them, and then they come the wrong color, and I send them back. And nothing wrong with all that, but gee, really, look at the context of the world. So I'm going to go back to sound. You probably got told this, maybe, or not. But Lama Eric, when I was asking about sound during the one-year retreat, he came one day and taught. He said there's a really good thing to do with it. First, get back to your basic calm abiding. That's just occurring. Get your tension off. Bring your attention back to your breath. Take 3, 4, 5 breaths just naturally. And then you can say to yourself, and this worked for me so well, is that sound inside my mind or outside my mind? Something happens. I don't know what it is. You're not trying to answer that scientifically. You're just, it opens something. I can't describe what it does. But just do that. Because then you're using the sound to move toward an insight of the nature of the mind. And then the next thing you can do, which I learned at the Abbey, is I used to correspond with prisoners at the local prison outside Spokane called Airway Heights. And there's a number of Buddhists in a lot of prisons in the U.S. right now, which is kind of heartening. There's these little Buddhist groups, and Venerable Chidren, my teacher, would go there and visit, so I went along on a few of those, and then corresponded with various prisoners around the country. The Abbey still has a very active prisoner communication project, as does the Liberation Prison Project, if you ever want to help support that with Rabina Corton. Anyway, this guy wrote, and described his meditation conditions. I never complained again. He said, I'm in the top bunk of a room that has 300 inmates in it, no dividers, just roaming. Guards come through like every couple hours to calm things down. I have a light bulb like this close to my head that I have no power to turn off. And he said, my meditations are going fine. I was like, oh my gosh, what I complain about. So it's good you can remember people like that and do Tonglen, or just appreciate how brave they are. And then and courage, the word courage in there, encourages us. So, inspires us. So all of these things Lama Michael was saying this morning, everything that arises is something to work with. One of the conditions in Mahamudra is to, it's called the sign appearance of the Guru, is to experience, first we just aspire for this, so that's the level I'm at, aspire, but eventually actually experience everything that arises as the appearance of the Guru. So difficult political circumstances, the appearance of the Guru. A fight with your friend, the appearance of the Guru. A wonderful vacation, the appearance of the Guru. So what does that mean? It means your Guru is showing you something. Not like Lama Michael's making this happen, but the Guru has all these levels. So the ultimate level of the Guru is the Dharmakaya, the luminous wisdom that permeates everything. So that is always showing us, always. We are it, we are that. And that is always being shown to us like mirror to mirror. So I do so much better when I can remember that. This is my Guru here. What's the message? Oh yeah, I'm totally freaking out. Maybe I need to use some Dharma. I'm freaking out over this sound. Oh, and there's one more with sound. There's infinite one. But the other one has really worked with leaf blowers. Those are the ones where I just start going off. And one of the places I stay as I go around in lovely donated places, one of the places I stay, this one guy, I'll say it, he's OCDC about his lawn. He doesn't like a single leaf there. My judgment, my bad. But, about most mornings, that leaf blower starts going about 9:30, and it lasts maybe 15, 20 minutes. Not that I'm counting. And sometimes I've been, I get to my cushion around that time. And I just sat there watching this irritation, then pissed off, and I'm going to write him a note. I'm going to put it on his door. I'm going to do a law that bans leaf blowers. You must rake and sweep. Anyway, all that going through. And then I remembered one Lama saying, any sound like that, listen for Om Mani Padme Hum in it. And leaf blowers really have it. They've got Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani. They really do it. And it's like, I really worked at it, and then I got it, and it was like, okay, there's the Om Mani going out, Genrasi. So we can work with these things. And I'm laughing a lot for the reason that one thing that keeps us from working with it is we get so serious. You know, I've been so serious about the heat in here. I'm so serious. It hasn't helped me at all. It has not made it cooler. So what's that? It's working. It's working for you. Okay, enough said. If there are other ideas, please share them. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. Don't expect immediate results from your practice. Haven't they told us that? Yeah, Matthew.
I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about, I think you mentioned earlier, sort of like investigation and sort of like how investigation can be sort of like a snag or a detriment or a hang-up, something like that. Kind of like saying like we investigate, like we can like pick apart the things that are bothering us. Not insight or like some kind of like, or like investigation into the nature of mind or the nature of samsara, but like so you mentioned investigation is kind of like like an examining of like how things aren't the way I want them to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and kind of like how to sort of like watch for which investigation's going on.
Which
how to kind of like
investigation? Say more.
Yeah.
There's more than one kind of investigation.
In the same way that for a while I thought I was I remember when I first started doing shamatha, I thought I was really good at objectless shamatha.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even doing shamatha at all. The vast majority of the time. So I'm kind of curious about.
Good.
So I'm kind of curious if there's sort of a similar dynamic with like, you know, how much of my quote unquote investigation into the nature of like how much of my quote unquote investigation is just, you know, me doing my own thing other than sort of the practice.
Well, only you would know that. So what do you think the percentage is right now?
Probably how it was when I first started doing shamatha.
Okay, good. So it's all good. If you
shamatha's going great, but vipassana,
Well, vipassana is a very advanced practice.
Yeah.
And first of all,
I guess I should say investigation, not vipassana, because the investigation is a component, but isn't the actual practice.
Yeah, no teacher that I know of, and the things I've read on shamatha ever say a beginner should start with shamatha with no object. So that's not the place to start. Even after a long time, I find whenever I try shamatha with no object, like you, I'm just back to my usual roving mind. You know, just roving. What I'm getting better at is seeing it's the usual roving mind and then saying, I better go back to step one, find an object to come back to. This is what stabilizes us. So your breath, or a very bright image of the Buddha, or your Chenrezig. It can be anything. So the fact that you have seen objectless doesn't work for you as a beginner, and the fact that you understand there's, let's say, investigation of the nature of the mind that can lead to experiencing the awareness versus investigation of the stories. That's plenty. See, we always want more now. We just rarely say, hey, I figured out some important things that I did not know before, and that will help my practice. And then the next thing will unfold. So the important thing, I think, is just do the practice.
Yeah, that's
and just be clear which one you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I see what you're getting at. It sort of reminds me of the handful of experiences that I've had with objectless shamatha, which only came about when I was practicing, you know, like what Lama Michael describes as like the short session, like,
oh,
you know,
yeah,
like
when he was leading those.
like the sort of like the continuous reset kind of thing.
Yeah.
I found that, you know, sometimes conditions will ripen for like a period of time where objectless shamatha kind of like things settle down to the point where I can just like rest without placing in my, like, you know, settling onto any sort of object.
Yeah.
But I don't have any control over that. Yeah.
And so as soon as we see, oh, I'm just doing my usual daydreaming, planning, memories, desire, aversion, then come back to an anchor. Yeah. Yeah, good.
While doing the meditation, in terms of how you started it with, I mean, and I've heard this a lot, but boy, today it really hit me.
I kind of can't hear you, Susan.
Can you hear me now?
A little. Just it's more holding it close.
Okay.
Yeah, there. Got
okay.
you.
Yeah, okay. What I really got, okay. What I really found difficult was being with the idea of an open sky. And I was very, what I was very aware of is I was being very contained by my body, but it also made me, so I guess it was just interesting. And I mean, it struck me pretty curious.
Do you have a question? Or just sharing the experience?
No, I'm actually wanting to know. No, I do have a question in terms of, I suppose, okay.
What's that?
I said, maybe I don't have a question. It was very curious to me. Now I know, okay, I'll ask you this question. No, I don't have to ask you this one either.
Well, without a question, I still think of a couple things. The reference to the mind being like the sky, the body being like a mountain, and the breath being like a breeze comes from Ken MacLeod. So I was at a retreat with him. He shared that, and it was helpful to me. So the second thing I want to say, when someone who's leading offers a, let's call it practice or direction, and you try it out for a few minutes and it's disturbing or not helpful, just drop it and go to what you know. This should be true for all of us. I was at a Zen retreat once and went in for those, what do they call them when you do a one-on-one? They do them all during retreats, but anyway, I went in with, what's it called? Dokushan, yeah. They do them like you'll be in a big room and you're all meditating, but each person gets tapped on the shoulder for about a 5-minute Dokushan to go out during the 2 or 3 hour meditation to talk with the teacher about what's going on with your practice. Is quite nice. And I went in, and it was my first time in a Zen place. It was out at Great Vow Monastery with Hogan and wonderful teachers out there. And I laid out something, and he looked at me and he said, "Your practice is your own." And it was perfect. First I thought, he didn't even address my questions, but he addressed something underneath there about your practice is your own. You own it. You need to work with it. You know, I think I was asking him one of these should I questions. Should I do this? Should I do that? He said, well, I can't tell you. Your practice is your own. It ties in with something Lama Michael talked about this morning, confidence. Confidence. We need to grow our confidence in the Dharma, in our own Buddha nature, in our wisdom, to lead our own selves. So the way I think about that, which comes from other teachers, is Dharma's this huge medicine cabinet. I mean, you open it and it's like, oh my God, there's so many things in here to take. Shamatha, Tonglen, Vajrayana, Chenresi, Green Tara, week-long retreats, you know, Nundro, prostrations, etc., etc. You slowly learn what those are, and so you have that medicine in there. But you need to become skilled, because the teacher's not going to pull it out of the cabinet and say, take 3 of these. And if they did, they wouldn't know that that's what's good for you. So we become, in a certain way, we have to become what the Buddha said. Evidently, reportedly, his last statement was, be a light unto yourself. When he was dying and his disciples were freaking out, he said, hey, you guys, I've been teaching you about your Buddha nature. I mean, I'm riffing off of this. And you have to be a light unto yourselves. Of course, there's a ditch there to fall into, total pride. I know what to do. But he wasn't worried they were going to go there. Yeah. So, you know, you take things or you don't. I try stuff on and I go, that's not for me right now. Or, well, that's like what I need to go with now. Then I go with it for a while and it's like, oh, that's dead in the moment for some reason. Try and revive it or whatever, but nope, gotta go see the teacher or go back to my medicine cabinet. Find something that freshens up the path for me. Therefore, for others.
I'm going to risk, in this spirit, I'm going to risk asking something.
Good.
So, I don't know, for the past few weeks, life has been such that, let's put it this way, I've allowed life situations be more attractive than the cushion. So not that I've forgotten every day, but I've not actually done my sit that much as I usually do. Life situations, work situations have become very tense. I'm in a wrangle with my client. And my client is very close to me. She's a very close person, very important person to me.
Okay.
And has a lot to do with money and time.
Yeah.
So we know those are charged elements.
Yeah.
And now I'm hearing tonight, this is very helpful for me tonight, because nothing arises but from the Guru.
Yeah.
So I've been facing this sort of head on as like me against her. And, you know, me against all my bad habits that have created this whole problem. So me against me, all this sort of thing. And
something
now,
against something.
Yeah, a lot of something against something. And trying to preserve something for me. Trying to not lose. And now I'm looking at the possibility, based on this conversation, the possibility of approaching it in a softer way. I'm not exactly sure what way, but I just wanted to mention that to see if anything else could come up with, be helpful. So working with difficult worldly situations involving people in a way that becomes practice.
Yeah.
In the way of being with what is. Oh, it's getting wind.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing. Not always easy to do. You know, this is difficult work on and off the cushion. And, well, let's say it can be. There's no magic to it. But anytime I find myself like this with self or others, I know I've trapped myself. Yeah, so when this occurs, throw up yellow flags or red flags and slow down. One of the first things is to slow down, because we get anxiety that says, this has to get solved. This has to get solved right away. And then we do a whole bunch of maybe not so helpful things. But I don't know what it means when you say softer, because, you know, the old Montana roadway, there's ditches on both sides. So we can be in the ditch duking it out, which isn't working. And we can fall in the ditch of, well, I want to be a really good Buddhist, and so I guess I'll just lose $5,000 or something. Those are ditches. So we have to get up on the middle of the road there. Well, not the middle, it's a 2-lane highway on your own side, and drive the car and not crash into the barrow pit or the crossing the yellow line. Seriously, one of the things that helps me is nonviolent communication. And it's a 4-step process that I won't go through all of them right now, but the 2 steps that help me the most are, what do I need right now? me, my relative self. And that is not always physical. Sometimes it's like, if I ponder that, it can be, actually, this isn't about the money for me. I'm just giving an example. It's about the disrespect. Or it's not about the time. It's about the lack of cooperation. Or it's the lack of harmony. There's a list you can look up of needs. Just put nonviolent communication needs in Google, you'll get them. Some of them are so surprising. And when I've worked with those going, oh, I'm actually wanting respect here and harmony. And then I can go to the person after I think about it, often with an email that I craft and leave alone for a night and recraft, and then say, you know, here's what I really need. I'm needing respect from you and toward you, and I'm needing some harmony, and our friendship's important, and therefore I'm suggesting this or that. So the two things out of the MVC 4-step are needs, and then, let's see, Linda, it's the, what? Feelings, yes, needs and feelings. Linda's got this, good. So, you know, I feel sad, I feel upset. Again, there's a list of feelings too, and you'll be surprised how rich they are. I feel upset is one I often use because it's kind of neutral. I feel upset, and I'm needing harmony in our relationship, so I want to head toward that. And then if you know what your request is, you can make that request. One of the other things you can do that sometimes helps if it's really getting serious is ask for a mediation. You know, you pick someone or I'll pick someone, and let's talk with a third person who's just calm and listening. So there's ways out of this, but that don't throw us in the ditch of, well, I'll give up. I'm not saying you were headed there, but that's often what happens. And then either of those lead to more friction. You're not back up on the road. Does that make sense, Jeff? Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'm pretty much already doing that without those particular
Good.
guidelines, but I like those guidelines. I'm going to look into those more.
Yeah.
Because tricky communication is coming up on Tuesday, and I'd like to prepare myself inwardly and also in terms of needs. And
yeah, and I write them down. Tricky stuff I write down for myself and take it in. So I'm really much more clear. Because if things have gotten to a point, then our emotions throw us. And when we're in the presence of that person, we're triggered again into the habit of the argument or something. And we don't have to be. We can free ourselves. That's the beauty of the mind. We can free ourselves any moment we can. We really can.
That's the pivot point that I was just asking about. You just identified the pivot point I was asking about. Since everything is always changing, we can be free at any moment.
Yeah.
That's what I realized. That's what my question is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you can crawl out of the ditch anytime, but we generally can't do it alone. Remember back to that koan I said, you can't benefit yourself. It's with other people that we learn these things, like MVC. Marshall Rosenberg taught thousands of people that, and now people are teaching people. Or coming here and asking your question. We're not doing these things alone. And the person that you're in a struggle with is showing you something. It always helps me when I can go in and see them as Green Tara or my teacher. I tell this story, which is true. When I was doing law one time, and I really didn't like working with this guy, George, who ended up being, he was a paralegal. He ended up being quite a good friend. But I used to just hate to go in and discuss a case with him. He was already hired when I got there, so it was like, George is, this is what it is. One day I went in to talk to him about something, and I had my attitude of, oh God, I have to go talk with George. This will be an argument. He won't agree. It'll be difficult. And I went in and I presented what I wanted to do. And he started in what looked to me like his usual pattern. And suddenly, my teacher in my head said, "It's Green Tara talking to you. Listen." I'm not kidding. I don't mean magic like she showed up, but that thought came in. And because of that thought, I leaned in a little toward him like, I really want to hear this, George. Like I want to hear. And something happened. I don't know what. Maybe he had always felt my judging and my resistance. But suddenly we were really talking about what would work best for the client, and not George wants this and I want that. And after that, we just started being friends. It was totally strange to me. But to me, that's equivalent to seeing everything as the guru. George became the guru, so I could see I was judging him, and I had pegged him as only this until my mind freed me and said, he's not that, he's Green Tara. And it was like, he's Green Tara, oh well, okay. So we can become playful with these things. You get to go in there as Chenrezig, and then that person's Green Tara, and you're just going to talk together. We can play. Oh, it's mine. Oh, that's what's happening. But it wasn't doing it earlier. It could be, yeah. Okay, one more question, then we'll end her. If we're too hot and tired, we can end right now. These are lovely thoughts, thank you.
Yeah. It's not a question per se, but the idea of it's all appearance of the guru or Green Tara or gifts from the guru. When I was studying Tibetan, and the word chu, that means dharma, but
Oh,
it
not
had
cutting, chu.
oh yeah chu,
Yeah, no, chu.
as in
Yeah.
in the dharma.
Got it.
But there's 10 major definitions, and one is dharma, and the other, or teachings, but one of the other definitions is phenomena. And I'm going,
Yeah, with the little d.
Yeah, but in my brain, what the lesson I got, and it was kind of like, well, yeah, because everything has the ability to teach me. Every phenomena.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I like that. So everything is dharma with a little d. That's how that's distinguished in the English translation. All phenomena are dharma. And then there's the big D, dharma, the path. But the little dharma are the path. What else can we work with? We got to work with what's right here. The heat, the leaf blower, the difficult friend, the fear of losing money, the health issue. That's our stuff. That's the mud from which the lotus is gonna bloom. Okay, let's dedicate. Thank you.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you. See you soon. Next Sunday is all day Sunday with Lama Michael. Chenrezig. First Sunday in August. Huh? No, in the morning it's cool enough. Well, you'll have to go at lunchtime and wet your shirt. You know what we could do is get little ice packs, those kind that go around, and put them down in the freezer. That wouldn't be bad. At the Abbey, we used to have these wet collar things. You put them in the freezer. They were these little cloth collars, and you put them in the freezer and wore them. Yeah, they have like water inside or crystals inside.